Hello, I'm Chris Perry and I teach history. Today, I want you to think. Today, I want you to examine a conspiracy theory. Now, we see plenty of those today. They're everywhere, right? Especially right now. You can turn on the TV, you can look at, especially if you get on the internet, because, obviously, if it's on the internet, it's got to be true, right? So these things are everywhere. And now, sometimes a conspiracy theory can have some truth to it. Sometimes it's completely, totally crazy, way out there, But the whole thing is to use your critical thinking skills. Use your brain. Figure it out, right? So, what I'm going to do today, and what I want you to do yourself, is think about a conspiracy theory. So I'm going to spin one for you. This one you may have heard before, maybe not, but I'm going to spin one about the JFK assassination. Right? Okay, so most people, I think they polled American people, and I think it was pretty high percentage that think, well, something was going on there, or maybe they didn't have all the information, and I'm not here to tell you one way or the other on that. That's completely up to you. You need to use your brain. But I'm going to spin one. I'm going to spin a conspiracy theory, and I'm going to see what you think about it. That's the whole idea. So, a conspiracy theory about the JFK assassination. Okay, so here it goes. Now, the 1960 presidential election. It was pretty tight. It was pretty close. It was actually very, very close. It was so close that Richard Nixon almost decided to contest it. But he ended up doing the right thing, and he did concede. He talked to Kennedy. But it was really close. Nixon had been Eisenhower's vice president. 1960, he's running very, very well. It's very close. Kennedy was young, popular, but many people did not trust the fact that he was Catholic, believe it or not. They didn't, think, they thought, well, what they thought was he would listen to the Pope more than he would the American people, which proved to be obviously false. But here's the deal. It's very close. Some people have said, well, it was too close. Something must have been happening there. Somebody must have been, it must have been something rotten in Denmark, so to speak. I think they used to say that on Bugs Bunny all the time. It's rotten in Denmark. Anyway, so here's the conspiracy theory beginnings. So the beginning of it, you've got the Frank Sinatra connection. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, if you know anything about Frank Sinatra, he was a very popular actor, singer, entertainer, very well known, and he endorsed John F. Kennedy in 1960. He endorsed him a lot. He went out and would sing at Kennedy events. Kennedy would run around with Sinatra. He stayed in his house. There's a lot of connections there between people that knew Frank Sinatra and people that knew John F. Kennedy. So there's this connection there, right? All right, so you get that. Clearly, Sinatra was a Kennedy supporter. Now, this is where it gets interesting. All right, there's this guy in Chicago, and his name is Sam Giancana. All right, Sam Giancana is a mob boss. He's pretty important in Illinois. He considers himself somebody who is a mover and a shaker, and probably he was. But here's the deal. Illinois is very, very close. I mean, it is really close. And this is like in the last election, if you want to look at an analogy or something today that you can look at, how close it was in certain states in the last election, 2016. That is what put Donald Trump over the top in the end, right? Is winning in certain states. Well, Illinois is one of those states, right? And Kennedy barely squeaks by in Illinois. I mean, really, really close. And there's some whispers that maybe there was some things in Chicago that is a population center, a lot of people there. Maybe there was some funny things going on in Chicago. I'm not saying there is. I'm not saying there isn't. I'm just saying that was what they were saying, right? So there's Sam Giancana in Chicago, and I'm going to paint the picture for you. Now, how does this connect to John F. Kennedy? Well, remember I mentioned Frank Sinatra. Well, Frank Sinatra, as it has been said, had mob connections. Now, let me paint this picture for you now. So, if you've ever seen The Godfather, if you have seen the scene in The Godfather where the singer, Johnny Fontane, I think was his name, comes to see Vito Corleone, and he says, you know, I've got there's this part in Hollywood is perfect for me, and I really need it, Godfather, and he starts crying and everything. So he slaps him around and he says, "Oh, to be a man," and all that stuff, right? And then, you know, if you've seen the movie, you know what comes next. He says, "I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse," talking about the producer, and then the horse head ends up in the bed and all that good stuff, and Johnny Fontane gets the part that he wants. Well, as it turns out, this likely is potentially based on something that Frank Sinatra had happened to him. Now, whether it's true or not is a completely different ballgame, right? But Frank Sinatra's career was kind of on a downturn. Then he ends up getting this part in a movie called From Here to Eternity, right? Which is what this is based on, this thing here. And he wins the Academy Award. It's pretty cool, right? And kind of rejuvenates his career. So the story was that the mob helped Sinatra. Now, was that Sam Giancana? Was this based on Sam Giancana? No, it was not. It was based on Carlo Gambino, who's also a mob boss, who also hung out with Sinatra. There he is right there. Carlo Gambino. If you've heard of John Gotti, this guy was the head of that before. He was the Gambino of the Gambino crime family. Anyway, so you see some ties here. But Sinatra also had some ties to Sam Giancana. So this close election, nationally and in Illinois, leads some people to believe that Sam Giancana helped Kennedy get elected, right? Because Frank Sinatra asked him to, right? Sinatra has this connection to Sam Giancana, so you have Kennedy winning in Illinois, big deal, very close. Maybe there's some funny things going on, maybe not. Now, so the idea here is all right, so we helped you win. Now you might need to look the other way on a few things, right? Sort of the old corruption type stuff. But as it turns out, Bobby Kennedy is Attorney General, and Bobby Kennedy, who I like to refer to as the good Kennedy, because I really like Bobby Kennedy. If you read about Bobby Kennedy, I mean, he did some things that I won't get it. Anyway, so Bobby Kennedy ends up going after organized crime. I mean, really hard, going after organized crime. He does his job, right? All right, so he goes after organized crime, and this upsets a lot of people, including Sam Giancana, right? So Bobby Kennedy is going after organized crime, and this sort of goes against this whole idea of, you know, Frank Sinatra and Sam Giancana. They helped Kennedy get elected. Then what happens? Frank Sinatra Jr. is kidnapped. Yeah, no, he's kidnapped. He was kidnapped. And there's some interesting things going on here. I'm going to get into a little bit more later on about what some people had said happened here. But in the conspiracy theory that I'm spinning, the idea is that Frank Sinatra was sent a warning here. You messed up. You screwed up. You shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't have had us support a guy who's going to put a guy in Attorney General that's going to go after us. So we're going to kidnap your son. His son was kidnapped. Very interesting story. All right. So Sam Giancana himself, or at least, you know, him and a few other people that wrote this book, I don't know how much Sam was actually writing here, but he lays it out. He said this is exactly, he's the guy that was running the country, or at least, you know, made the mover and the shaker that allowed things to happen in the country. Sam Giancana, a book called Double Cross, lays it out there for you, which talks about the kidnapping of Frank Sinatra Jr. Well, Sam Giancana wouldn't lie, right? Surely not. He wouldn't lie. So it's all there. Has to be true, right? So there it is. Lays it right out there for you. Now, so then November 22nd, 1963 happens. and John F. Kennedy is shot. Who did it? What happened? What's going on? You know, you have, of course, Lee Harvey Oswald. We think, or at least according to the Warren Commission, was the lone gunman. Many people don't believe that. The problem is it's hard to find the evidence to prove it completely. I mean, really, really, I'm talking about beyond a shadow of a doubt evidence to say that it didn't happen this way. And this is why this is carried on for years and years and years. Now, your mind may tell you, surely there had to be other people involved here. Oswald didn't pull this off, himself, right? He had other people helping him at least somewhere along the line. But still, the evidence is hard to come by. Somebody may know something, but they're not talking. So Kennedy is shot. Now, so this is one of those things. Now, did the mob have anything to do with this? This is the conspiracy theory. And if you lay this thing out there and you see how this all fits together, you can see how some people would believe this. Because Oswald, of course, never got to speak. He never got to really talk. He said he was a patsy, which means I'm getting set up here. He said that. But then a guy named Jack Ruby shot him and killed him, and Jack Ruby had known mob connections. Go figure. What's going on there? I don't know. You tell me. Who knows? And I didn't even say anything about Marilyn Monroe. Didn't even bring her up. Marilyn Monroe, that picture there is a picture of the Kennedy brothers and Marilyn. So you can see that, they had a special relationship. And Marilyn Monroe ends up dead too. And I didn't even say anything about Marilyn Monroe in this. So I don't know. So this is how a conspiracy theory starts, right? This is what happens. Now, there are several on the Kennedy assassination, and this is just one, right? So what say you? What do you think? Put your thinking cap on. See where this takes you. And it's really interesting to take the journey to see, right? So you tell me, what do you think?